Week 2 of the NFL season is upon us. The Cleveland Browns are heading to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Two teams looking to avoid 0-2 starts. And joining me today to help break down the preview in our second ever Ultimate Cleveland Fan Show are my friends Damien and Jonathan. I'll introduce you to them in 1 second because the show starts right now. And we are live. Jonathan from Strongsville/Cleveland. We have Damien from down in Beaumont, Texas, joining us. Big shoes to fill, stepping in week 2 after Evan and X did a terrific job in week 1 on the Ultimate Cleveland Fan Show. So, Jonathan, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for Sunday. Big week.
Can't come here soon enough. Damien, how's things down in Texas as a Browns fan right now?
It's hot, it's crazy, and we just are unsure.
Well, you said you're from Beaumont, Damien, and that is in the general Houston. I mean, it's not Houston area, but as far as pro teams go, you're kind of in between New Orleans and Houston. Were you a Deshaun fan prior to him coming to Cleveland, just being so closely located to Houston and seeing him play there for so many years?
Yeah. I was originally, I'm originally from Chester, South Carolina. So I guess I seen a lot of them in Clemson first. So yeah, definitely was a fan.
Before we dive into this week, I got to ask, as someone who watched him from Clemson, Houston here, is the quarterback we saw on Sunday against Dallas, did that look like the quarterback you watched for all those years in Clemson and Houston?
Man, it was horrible. Like I always said that like a Christmas a few years ago, the Baker ruined Christmas. Well, Deshaun ruined opening day, man. I was hyped up for week 1, and it was probably the worst quarterback I've ever seen.
It was not good. Jonathan, I will start here. We'll get into more Jacksonville stuff in a sec, but have you fully processed and gotten over what we saw on Sunday from that Browns offense?
Yeah, because the most important stat in the National Football League is that more teams who win the second game make the playoffs than teams who win the first. It's way more important to go 1-1 than 1-0. And so last time I checked, this is the second game. Jacksonville's a good team, but you got to scrap. Listen, we played horrible against the Cowboys. I mean, we averaged more on a rush per attempt than passing. That's ridiculous. It was a terrible game through and through. I mean, the defense kind of had their moments. I wouldn't say they played absolutely terrible. They were in tough positions a lot, but it wasn't a great team performance. I mean, you don't see very many games where on the offensive line, you see multiple people coming in to play left tackle. You see a rookie guard come in and play left tackle. Then how many games ever have you watched where the left tackle alternates in the game? Like, I don't think I can think of one in the National Football League, but it happened to us. So listen, it was bad, but that's coaching. You still need to prepare to win. A loss is a loss. I think the Cowboys are also a great team, a really good team, top 3 in the NFL for sure. But scrap it. It's all about going 1-1. Big difference than 0-2. But yeah, Jacksonville's a good team, but I'm confident. I'm not even thinking much about the Cowboys anymore. I mean, it really doesn't matter, does it?
Jonathan's confident. Damien, do you share that same confidence heading into this week 2 matchup against the Jaguars?
I'm always confident, probably just because, the fanatic in me. I'm confident that we're going to turn it around. I'm probably just most confident in Kevin Stefanski. We don't lose too many back-to-back. Generally, we are ready and prepared to play. And I think he's going to figure out what we need to do offensively, whether it's leaning to the run game, whether it's finding a way to get Deshaun in rhythm. And then also, I feel like we got the best defensive player in the league with Myles Garrett. And I just think that the defense, like much of last year, is going to carry us.
I was doing some research for Tyvus this morning. Tyvus sometimes asks me to look up stats that he can use in the Browns pregame show. He never gives me credit for it, so I'm going to take credit before Tyvus uses it on the show. But Kevin Stefanski, as the Browns head coach, is 20-8 coming off losses in his tenure. He's always done a good job of bouncing back. They rarely lose 2 games, and I do think that is a testament to coaching. I mentioned this on the show today, guys. We were promised this new look offense, this Ken Dorsey influence. They bring in a new quarterback coach, running back coach, offensive line coach. One of the things Dorsey was kind of known for, at least we expected to see him have a bigger immediate impact, was in the use of motion. And in week 1, the Browns were dead last in the NFL in overall motion and dead last in pre-snap motion. Is that just a week 1 figuring things out, or do you expect to see a couple new wrinkles this week against this Jacksonville defense, who is missing 2 of their starting 5 members in the secondary, Jonathan?
I mean, I think you're going to see a totally different offense, to be honest. I think that they did less because of the offensive line. And you talk about new coaches, but I do think one of the big losses we had was the loss of Bill Callahan.
For sure.
I mean, probably the best offensive line coach in the NFL. And so that's a big change. So I think things are a little different on that front. I think you're going to see, we won't be a dead last in motion. I think you will absolutely see new wrinkles. I do have concerns because the offensive line still isn't there. Conklin, we don't know. He was practicing with the ones on left tackle. I think he'll probably be left tackle, but he's going to be rusty. He hasn't played left tackle in probably more than 9 years, right?
A decade. It's been a decade.
Yeah, a decade. And I worry in the front of Jacksonville is incredible. Trayvon Walker, great week. You got Armstead. You got Hines Allen. I mean, they're good. They probably have an overall better front than the Cowboys all around. But then you look at that secondary that's banged up, and you got like Darby, who he let up a perfect 158.3 rating last week. He let up like 170 yards. I think both wide receivers had over 100 yards in Miami. So
and they targeted him.
Yeah, you're going to see a totally different offense, a lot stronger. I truly believe you're going to see such a big turnaround. They're going to start talking about Deshaun as comeback player of the year after this week.
Now, that's a hot take there. We'll get back. I'm going to get you guys' hottest takes and boldest predictions in a little bit. I want to start on the more even keel level with Damien. Do you agree with Jonathan's assessment that we will see a couple new wrinkles here as we get closer and closer to kickoff?
I mean, there's no choice. I mean, like you said, it was last in motion. The only place to go is up. I mean, I think with the new offense, you got to see, what's going on. I think week one was more of a filler process for Kevin Stefanski because, I mean, it's new for him as well. He used to calling his plays from his own little, personal stash that he's had since Minnesota. So you got some new wrinkles, some new plays, calling in the different motion. And I think that can only help Deshaun get a clear picture, from walking to the line to when the play actually starts. So new wrinkles, I think you have to, including playing Deontay Foreman more. He played like one snap. You brought him in to be the Kareem Hunt role. You brought him in to, be able to get that 3 yards on first down. He's more downhill runner than Jerome Ford, who I'm a fan of, but we all know he tiptoes a lot. He tap dances. So we need to stay ahead of the chains and move forward. So I think we'll see some of those new wrinkles in week 2.
A big part of staying ahead of the chains too is eliminating those pre-snap penalties that put the Browns in. I mean, listen, you guys are fans. I watch it and I'm taking notes. I can share my, I would hate to watch a game with myself. I'm gonna be honest. Like if I was someone and I rewind stuff, I pause it. I got my notebook next to me. From a fan perspective, someone who lives and dies with each play at a more emotional state than I do. When you see the Browns commit 7 pre-snap penalties on offense, are you guys ready to kick your TV out the window and throw a remote through it? Like what, by the 7th one, what's going through your mind in terms of what the hell are these guys doing up front?
Yeah, I was already sick of it probably about the 3rd one because at that point we'd seen the Thursday, the Friday game, and then the 1 o'clock slate where you seen like 15 to 20, 25, illegal formations. And I was like, I know they've seen everybody else play, and there's like no way that we're going to have so many, right? And then about the 3rd one, I was saying a lot of words around my kids that I probably shouldn't.
You can say this is YouTube. You can say anything but the F word here. Just a heads up. So just so you guys know, Jonathan, what was going through? How crazy does it drive you when you see these pre-snap penalties?
I mean, it's frustrating. I mean, you heard a lot of the player interviews this week. Like you know what I'm saying, you can't start 1st and 15. Like that just changes the whole playbook. It changes everything. So it's frustrating. But you also got to remember that with the refs, they call week 1, week 2 much tighter than later in the season. And by the time you get to the playoffs, and you can't even get a call, and you can just hold like the Chiefs' offensive line. But it's, I think, you got to take that, yes, DeJuan Jones, I mean, he got called a ton and they were bad, but they are calling it much tighter and they're going to loosen up each week. So, but that's coaching. That's all coaching. And so Stefanski has to own that. Ken Dorsey has to own that. And we got to get that fixed. If you do that 2 weeks in a row, you got big, big problems. But I expect to see at most 1 false start or 0. Nothing else is acceptable in week 2.
I like it. And I think it sounds like we're all pretty big Stefanski fans on this Zoom right now. So if it does become an issue again, that's kind of where it goes back to coaching. And it'd be one of the things we could look at and say, hey, Kev, get these guys in line because the offense, at least what we saw versus Dallas, is not built to go. I mean, Tom Brady, how many times did he say it's harder to get 12 yards than it is to get 10? It's harder to get 10 to get 7. I think he was a broken doll. You know, when a kid, you have the little doll, you pull the string in the back and it says the same line over and over and over again. That's what it felt like listening to Tom Brady about the Browns being behind the chains. I want to get to the Jacksonville game in one sec, but I have one more important question I need to get your guys' opinion on from a fan perspective before we dive into the Jaguars in particular. The new allegations against Deshaun Watson come out on Monday, and the majority of the conversation, not just on UCSS, but in the city of Cleveland surrounding the Browns, has been, you know, how does that impact Deshaun Watson and this team moving forward? I get the sense, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, and Damien, I'll start with you. We'll go to Jonathan second. A lot of fans are kind of over all the drama that has come with the Deshaun Watson saga so far, and they've just become exhausted of talking about it. Is that a fair assessment? And if it's not, please tell me where you stand on just the overall vibes with the Browns and the Deshaun Watson. I'll call it a saga. I don't mean that in a negative connotation, but just, I guess, his tenure with the Browns thus far.
Yeah, that's a fair take, man. It's just at the point where you're tired of talking about it. And then that coupled with the way he's played, coupled with the trade itself, the Browns are becoming and remaining the laughingstock. And I thought we were past that over the last couple of years with Stefanski, but it's frustrating to keep having to talk about it, to keep having rehashing it. And like, this isn't the first time. Like, it's been more allegations pretty much every year since we've had him. So it's been like 2, 3, 4 more cases since the original settlement, the original suspension. So at this point, it's tiring. You just want to talk ball. Whether, you know, it'll be a whole lot easier if he was playing well to talk about, you know, just straight football, but him playing bad, and not just bad, but like 9 QBR bad. With that coupled with the allegations and these being seemingly worse than the previous, it's difficult.
Jonathan?
I mean, negative news drives views. I mean,
fact.
That's how it works. So I don't listen. They're serious allegations, but they're allegations. You know, let it play out in court, or you know how it has to roll out. Respect the process. You know, we talked about this quite a bit when he first came over, and all the suits that were settled, and he got suspended, and he paid his fine, and he's back. I think Amari really said it best when he said when he got in the league, an old head told him, like, whatever's going on in your personal life off the field, when you get in between those lines, it doesn't matter. You're a professional. I think that's the way this team approached it. I think all 32 teams in the NFL approach it that way. I don't think it's a distraction. I don't think it affects anything. I think it's great to talk about it on YouTube or TV and try to drive up ratings. But I think that's the only – I mean, listen, we know what it is. I mean, there's nothing really to talk about. I want to talk about, like, why did he overthrow someone out of bounds by 15 yards, right? Why is he getting sacked 7 times a game? Why can't the offensive line block? Why can't Deshaun get rid of the ball? That's all I care about. I care about the play calling in between the lines, just like Amari said on the field, as a fan off the field. That's all I care about is the Browns winning a Super Bowl. I
appreciate the perspectives. It's always nice to expand your horizons because we all look at it from different angles. You know, Jonathan, you're in Strongsville. I'm in downtown Cleveland. Damien, you're in Beaumont, Texas right now. I'll come at things from different ways of perceiving all of our lives, and our upbringings and stuff were different. So you kind of see the same situation in different ways, and being able to have these conversations and understand where someone's coming from and why someone feels a certain way versus why someone doesn't, I think makes us all better people.
I think that's extremely important. I think we need to have more of those conversations as a society as a whole. So I think it's a really important point, honestly. So yeah, I think it's really important just to hear, listen, know where everyone's coming from, and just have these open conversations. I think, I'm with you 100% of the way.
Let's talk a little Jags game now. It's not a must win. It's only week 2 of the season, but it does feel like the Browns, if they fall into an 0-2 hole, it's not over, but the deck would certainly be stacked against them. We've seen teams come up from 0-2 holes. The Texans last year did it, but the numbers at least indicate it becomes significantly tougher to make a playoff run when you start an 0-2 hole. Jonathan, you said earlier you expect 1 false start penalty and a complete bounce back to where we're talking about Deshaun Watson as the comeback player of the year. Where does this confidence come from that this is the week the Browns completely turn it around?
I mean, basically the whole team came back from last year, and we saw them how they played through all this adversity, and they kept stacking wins and going to the playoffs. Now we have 1 more year under Jim Schwartz, right? We added Ken Dorsey, a little bit more spread, more over like the Deshaun Watson type quarterback, Cam Newton, type style, which he did so great with and won the MVP. I think the Browns in week one, I think their performance was not representative of their talent and their preparation. I think a lot of the issues there were very few moments, if at all, where everybody was on the field at training camp. And so I think there was a little bit of communication issues, just being on the same page with everybody on offense and defense. I think that probably what happened week one with the Cowboys, we're going to look back as probably one of the better things that happened to us. I think it kind of got everyone straight, like, okay, like we are not going to look like this. We are not having the media talk about us like this. This is not who we are. And especially, especially people who came back like McLeod and all those people who, came back for one last season just to get a win. I think, I think the second game is a must win. And you said it wasn't. I disagree. I think we go 1-1 and we got a good chance to go to the AFC Championship. I think we're in real big trouble unless we win on a last minute field goal.
Damien?
I'm excited, man. I think, we're going to take it week by week. So obviously, the goal is to go 1-0. With us, this game in Jacksonville, I do like our chances. I haven't ever really been a big fan of Trevor Lawrence. So I think the defense has an opportunity to get some turnovers. He, like any other quarterback, you get pressure. You get pressure on him. We get half a feet, and you get a potential for some turnovers. Like I said, I think Myles Garrett is going to have an opportunity to have a big game. Darius Smith of that defensive line. And then offensively, man, we're going to have to run the ball. We have to run the ball because, that's what we're used to. We got the Maulers on the inside with Antonio and Posich and Teller and DeJuan Jones, man. If you listen, and I saw too many plays on run plays where you just hedging, where you just kind of step in with the little swinging gate open. I need you on the ball, pushing them back, man. Like, hit somebody. Like, I played offensive line before. Obviously, I'm not nowhere near the NFL. The best plays was the run plays, man. Always. You get to hit somebody, drive somebody back. I'm talking what was the movie with Michael Orr?
Blindside,
like,
where he drives into the
yeah. Like, that should be every play. He's like the biggest player on the field, and like, I just need to see some nastiness. At some point in time, you got to hit somebody, and you got to want to hit somebody. And that physicalness is something that we had last year, even when the run game wasn't good. The offensive line was still nasty. The defense brought that attitude and that swag, and that's just something you didn't see in week one. And they kind of really have to bring it week two, or you're going to walk out of Jacksonville 0-2.
Jonathan, I saw you when he said Trevor Lawrence. I saw you go. Are you a bigger fan of Trevor Lawrence, or you think he's actually giving him too much credit?
I mean, I don't care from either way, but just objectively, I think he's one of those rare talents. Like, he was one of those guys, like, where Andrew Luck came out, they knew he'd be good. The Trevor Lawrence, he was going to be great. Like, never lost a game till the national championship in his second year. Like, he was just one of those raw talents where you just knew he was going to be a good pro through and through, like a John Elway coming out or Peyton Manning. He was in that same class, man. And yeah, I mean, I think he can make every throw. I think if you look closely at that throw he made to Brian Thomas last week, where
there's so
great
few.
throw.
Listen, there's some hills that I'm willing to die on. I think Trevor Lawrence is good, like really good, and the talent is undeniable. He made a throw last week where Benjamin selected a whole breakdown. I don't know if you guys saw it on ESPN. I wish I could throw it up here, but he faked. They were playing cover 2, and he faked the outside defender, the leverage with a toe tap, and the defender took one step, and he threw it right on the inside, and it just the way he can manipulate the. But then he doesn't come through in the biggest moments, and that's what's so frustrating about Trevor Lawrence. And I know it's early in his career; it's way too early to say. He's won a championship in college at Clemson. Like, I'm not saying he's not clutch. It's just he makes all these plays throughout the games that you're like, holy shit, that's incredible. And then it's like, wait, y'all are 9-8, or you gave a 28-point lead at home with it. Like, he's not perfect, but I will die in the Trevor Lawrence.
He has all the potential, though, as much as
Yeah.
anybody else in the league. I mean, no question about it. Just raw talent and size and to scramble. But, I mean, listen, they do go, but he won that playoff game. I mean, I think his ceiling is really high.
I do too. The home road splits for the defense were not great last year. This is their first test on the road this year. Damien, do you expect a better, I don't want to say showing because they had some good games on the road. It's just overall the numbers were different. Do you expect a more consistent showing from this Browns defense in their first road test this year, being year 2 in the Jim Schwartz system?
I do. I really do. I think that last year, some of it was just bad luck as far as the offense turning the ball over a lot. Obviously, the yardage and stuff, yes, those are, representative of what actually went on the field. But the offense wasn't helping them out a lot. And much like week one, which was at home, you kind of saw that same thing. When we play complementary football, generally the defenses play fairly well, really well, outside of like maybe Indy and a few other games. But I expect the defense to play a whole lot better on the road this year. Miles said multiple times that was a point of emphasis of that consistency that those guys wanted to bring. I think this, once again, is a really good opportunity because as talented as Trevor Lawrence is, he hasn't reached that potential. He hasn't been consistent. And his statistics and have been closer to Daniel Jones than it has an elite quarterback. So I think they got a really good chance to turn it around this year as long as they stay healthy and just like I said, continue to stay aggressive.
Jonathan?
I mean, if you listen to Miles in the offseason and everybody else on the team, they as a team, there were like 2 goals. And the number one goal was to play better defensively on the road. So if you don't see that improved in week 2, you maybe, and I love Jim Schwartz, but maybe you got to just cut him loose and just get someone new on for game 3. I mean, there's no excuse if we get blown out 2 weeks in a row after what happened week 1. And then with your one main goal to be more dominant, especially on defense, on the road, and then the first game you get crushed by Trevor Lawrence, who really you should have his number because Schwartz worked for Doug Peterson, and so he tends to know those people's numbers just like he does like Kyle Shanahan. There's just certain coaches who understand other coaches, and he definitely understands Doug Peterson. If there's anything except a win by the Browns or a last-second field goal that we lose or last-second like Hail Mary, something crazy, there's absolutely no excuse. You maybe get rid of the whole coaching staff.
I'm going to talk to Steve Becker through the camera while we're live right now. Steve, when I told you I wanted to do this, I wanted to get Browns fans on to give us scorching hot takes like that I couldn't even fathom thinking of myself because I don't have that. I root for the Browns. When they win, it's great, but I wasn't born and raised here in the same way some of you guys were. I haven't been a lifelong Browns fan. We have found Jonathan, who in the span of 22 minutes now has said, fire the whole staff if they lose, potentially fire Jim Schwartz. Deshaun comeback player of the year campaign starts in week 2, and he's expecting 1 false start penalty from the offensive line and nothing else. This is exactly why we needed the Ultimate Cleveland Fan Show here. Damien, no pressure, but I'm going to start with you on this next one, which is give me your hottest take for this game. It could be a prediction, not a score, because we're going to get to scores at the end, but any type of player prediction, theme of the game. Give me your hottest take for what you expect to see or you think we could see come Sunday against Jacksonville.
My hottest take this week is going to be I got the defensive line getting 5+ sacks. This is not to mention Grant Delpit, who I think we're gonna use him more in the blitz game.
So the full defense, 5+ sacks, you're saying?
No, this is just the D line. 5 sacks.
Let's go. Let's go.
I told you, Miles is gonna have a game. Miles is gonna go crazy.
I agree.
Darius Smith, he got the monkey off his back early. He got his first sack out of the way early this year. Look out, Quentin Jefferson. We bought him for a reason. Interior pass rush, and that offensive line wasn't that good last week for Jacksonville. I think we're gonna have an opportunity to make some noise on that defensive line.
Jonathan, you've given us 3 scorching hot, Scotch bonnet level hot takes so far. Do you have another one up your sleeve for this weekend against Jacksonville?
I wouldn't say these are scorching hot takes. It's just if you're objective and truthful, these are just kind of what you have to do. So I would say that Deshaun Watson, I don't know how hot of a take this is, but 4 touchdowns, no picks, over 400 yards passing.
I don't know how hot. I mean, we're talking Scoville levels in the 5 digits with that one. Hey, it's not impossible. In his career, he's undefeated against the Jaguars, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Both those came in his first career start against Jacksonville. As a 105 plus QB rating against Jacksonville in his last 3 starts. He hasn't thrown for 300 yards in a game since 2021. It was the 2020 season. It was technically 2021. So to say he's going to go for 400, that qualifies, Jonathan, and I'm all for it. Like, that'd be awesome. What people don't
here's the charm.
As much as, from a UCSS perspective, I can only speak for what we do. We have to talk about the off-field stuff and all that. If he throws for 400, on Monday's show, we will spend an hour and a half talking about Deshaun Watson carving up the defense like a Thanksgiving turkey. We just didn't want to spend an hour and a half against the Dallas game because it was like trying to carve up a skinny pigeon in New York City. There wasn't a whole lot of meat on that bone. So, hey, I loved it. Let's get some game predictions. I have an idea based off your guys' takes where you're leaning. But, Damien, will it be a happy Sunday for Browns fans, or is it going to be a depressing 0-2 start?
We have no choice but to be happy this week. We're not going 0-2. Obviously, the Browns are going to get this win behind the 5 sacks. I do think Deshaun Watson bounced back, not quite the 400 for a touchdown, but I think he does bounce back. I got the Browns winning 27-14.
Hey, take the alternate spread plus 10. You're probably going to get 11-1 odds on that on FanDuel. Jonathan, score and who wins?
So I think the Browns win with LeBron's, with
and LeBron's definitely helping to win too. So
man, we can use him at tight end or something or wide receiver.
Hey, Jordan Akins and nobody right now. Sign up LeBron. He would LeBron be a better tight end today than Jordan Akins? In all honesty,
no. Not at this point. I mean, he's still doing. I mean, it's amazing what he's doing right now at 40, but I think he's a little past it.
I don't think he can block. I'd rather have LeBron running routes in the red zone than Akins. Yeah. But other than that,
lob it up.
Than that, he ain't blocking like Akins. But I don't know. He's LeBron. I'm not putting anything past him.
And we need blocking this week. I'd say Browns 38, Jacksonville 28. I still think they put up a lot on the defense, but our offense is about. You're not even gonna. It's going to seem like a totally different team this week. Totally different on the offensive end.
So take the over, and the Browns are underdogs. So you get plus points on the money line. Take the over. Jonathan, if people liked your takes, I certainly did. Where can they find you? Are you on social media at all? And if you're not, you don't have to share it, but just want to give the people the opportunity to go find you on Twitter.
You can follow me on Twitter, X at KOGZ Kogs. Happy to interact with you there or give some more hot takes.
Damien is at Fatboy Season Inc. Is that your Twitter handle?
That is at Fatboy Season Inc. on Twitter. As Mama call it Twitter, I'm gonna call it Twitter. We do spaces every Tuesday, so check that out. And Fatboy Season 1 on TikTok.
Awesome. Well, Jonathan, Damien, I appreciate y'all joining us. We appreciate everyone else for tuning in. This was exactly what I hope we get. And if you want to be featured on an upcoming episode of the Ultimate Cleveland Fan Show, send me an email. I'll put the email address in the description of this video. And during the season, we'll do this every week. We'll get some more fans, get some more hot takes, and give you guys a different perspective than the same few guys you see on the panel every day. Jonathan, Damien, I appreciate you guys for hanging out today. It is Friday.
Brownies.
It happens between now and Sunday morning. We cannot be held responsible. It is 6:30 on the dot as we wrap this up on Friday. Appreciate you guys joining us, and we'll see you guys Sunday after the game. Go Brownies.
Go Browns.